We are back, the Usher Group Podcast. Really excited today to welcome Jack Hutchinson Jnr. Welcome to the podcast today, mate.
Thanks, Mikkel. I'm delighted to be here. It's a cool office and, my first time out here. We've obviously worked together a bunch in the past, but I've never been out here, so it's cool to be here.
No, it's awesome. I just love seeing your energies. You went around too. You could just see it. For us, it's funny, we'll go into it a bit further in the podcast today, but so much of what Usher's done has actually really been emulated by what we've seen Hutchies do as an example. And we've really looked at, spending a lot of time in your offices with your people, the culture, the way that you set things up. And I think it's really inspired us to try and do things differently for our people and our culture too. Thanks, mate.
I think that's great that Hutchies has inspired other people to take culture seriously. But I think you guys have your own unique identity too, with the half pipe, the ice baths, the saunas, the surfing. So we each have our own unique identities as companies and individuals. But it's cool to hear that Hutchies has inspired your own culture.
No, awesome, mate. And I guess for anyone tuning in, it shouldn't be any secret, but you here today representing Hutchinson Builders. They are Australia's, I think, oldest and largest privately owned construction company. Is that right?
Yeah, it fluctuates by revenue year on year, but generally speaking, we're the largest private builder in the country and the largest, I would say the oldest continuing. I think some people have dates or founding dates that they claim, but I think some of those businesses were rejuvenated, whereas Hutchies has been operating since 1912 without stopping.
1912, hey? That's unbelievable.
113 years.
113 years. So, and obviously very much family business orientated, hence the name Jack Hutchinson Jr. I'd love to pry into that a little bit. So what's your title now? You're Director of Hutchinson Builders, yep?
Yeah, so I serve on the board as a director.
Yes, yep. And so talk about maybe just that quick snapshot of the Hutchies structure, or where it started to where you are now. Where did Hutchies begin?
Yeah, so it was founded in 1912 by my great-great-grandfather, who was an Englishman, came from Lancashire, a little town called Bury, and came over on a boat in 1911 to build a new life here, as many migrants did, as many Brits did. I think he won his first job, which was a kitchen refurb at Fort Lytton in 1912. I think he was a bit of a man about town and grew the place pretty quickly. He also founded Wynnum Wolves Football Club. I think he served on the council for a bit, but essentially he hit the ground running when he got to Australia, and it grew to quite a big company in the 30s. We've had our ups and downs throughout history. My father did a good job of digging up a lot of that history, and we wrote a book for our centenary which sort of outlines some of that, but essentially we've had years where we were bigger, some years where we were struggling. When my grandfather Jack stepped into the company, I think we were in pretty bad shape, and Jack helped turn it around. Even in my dad's era, we've had good times and bad, but we're in pretty good shape now with, turning over roughly $3 billion and a balance sheet value at sort of $400 million and the same in cash. So we're in safe hands now. But even
that is healthy.
Yeah, it is, and I don't say that to brag or anything. No. I think we say it often to just show security to our clients, and that there's been a lot of insolvency in our industry, so the fact that you're financially secure is a big deal. But even during my childhood, we weren't this big of a company. I think when I was in primary school or early high school, primary school, we were probably turning over 100 million and had 100 staff. Now we're turning over 3 billion and have 2,000 staff. So a lot of that growth was through the Greg Quinn era, so from 2003 to 2022 when he handed over to Rusty.
Yes, yep.
I guess a bit more about my role. I'm a quantity surveyor by trade, so worked outside the family business, which my father did too. He's an engineer by trade, and so his advice was go do some work outside and then come back. And then came back, was a cost planner in John Belisa's team for a bit, who you guys have always done a lot of work
Absolutely,
for. Then was a contract administrator, then went to England to do my MBA and worked for a builder over there.
Yep.
And then when I came back, the old man said, look, I don't want you running jobs anymore. Eventually, I want to get out of this place. I want you to join the board. I want you to do a bit more of what I do, which I guess is a mix of things. It's control meetings, so budget meetings, project allocation. I think a big part of the role of the board or the owners is selecting which jobs we want to take on and which teams we allocate them to.
Sure.
Project finance meetings, so when we lend money. So the role's varied now, but essentially serve as a director.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. And sorry, do you mind me asking your age now?
Yeah, I'm 33. So,
33. Yeah. Geez, that's a lot of responsibility for a 33-year-old.
Well, it is, but the responsibility shared. So
Yes,
obviously, Dad still chairs the board.
Yes,
Russell's our managing director, so a lot of those day-to-day operational decisions are made by him and his COO, Paul Hart, who you'd know well, who used to head up our Coolangatta team. And then obviously the team leaders at Hutchies have a lot of responsibility too. So a lot of the day-to-day decisions, the hiring and firing, the the subcontracting, the procurement, a lot of that's done at a team leader, project management level. So it's a lot of responsibility, but it's shared among a whole, crew of great people. So I don't feel overwhelmed. It's not as if people are coming and saying, Jack, what do we do? Most people in Hutchies are competent and are making decisions at all levels of the company.
And that's something I've always admired about the Hutchies model too. It's quite unique in that sense as well. And you guys really do seem to share a lot of responsibility and push that personal responsibility and accountability for what the teams themselves are responsible for, and then making their model themselves, I guess, sustainable. So maybe for people that don't understand the Hutchies model, what does it look like from state to state, different regions you operate in?
Yeah, so essentially the organisational structure is we have the board and the owners, I guess, which is we're completely family owned, so we don't have any outside capital. We're not publicly listed, so really the only people we answer to is ourselves. And then we have a managing director and a COO, and then under them we have 25 construction teams, and so they are headed up by what we call team leaders. And so again, those people are in Brisbane. I think there's 6 or 7. On the Goldie, there's 2. In Melbourne, there's 2. In Sydney, there's 3. In Tassie, there's 1. So they're spread out geographically, but in regions where we do a lot of work, like Southeast Queensland, there's quite a few of them. But essentially, they report direct to the MD, and they're tasked with a lot of responsibility. So, like I said earlier, they hire their own people, they set their own salaries, they negotiate most of their own subcontracts. We have some centralised procurement arrangements for, say, concrete, but most day-to-day decision-making is at that level, and they also pursue their own clients and the sectors they target. So, for example, John Belize, who I used to work for, builds largely high-rise, so commercial and residential high-rise. A team leader like Mitch Grimmer in Brisbane does mostly schools as well as some commercial, industrial, institutional work. Andrew Doyle, who's just taken over from Bernie Nolan in Melbourne, focuses on schools largely there, but some commercial, some health work. Jamie Washington, who I think you guys have done work for, has done a lot of health, even correctional now. So we don't tell the team leaders to stick to one thing. They can diversify their teams, but we try to help guide them to do what them and their people are good at, as opposed to stepping outside that too much.
Yeah, I love that. And it shows too, you definitely see the different focus team to team. And like you said, that some of that evolves, but it seems to be that they're really seeking out the right opportunities for the right reasons at the right time. And obviously the industry evolves a lot, it changes, and you guys have had to adapt, I'm sure, plenty of times with the different economic environments and things that stack up and things that don't. We've seen ourselves go through cycles where projects that used to be quite profitable and go well and run well now may have some certain restrictions or may not go the same way, or it doesn't seem as financially viable, and then we start to shift our focus into different areas that are maybe a bit more niche and building strength of teams around those different areas. And like you said, it's great that you guys give that level of ownership to those team leaders to be able to to have initiative to go out and look for those things, but then also have your guidance to be able to come in and say, from what we see or what we, you've got such a global view of the industry, nationally around the country. I'm sure you can give them some great insights as to big growth areas of what's coming up and where they should be putting their attention. Yep.
No, that's exactly right.
Yep.
That's it. The team leaders are talented, capable individuals, and we want them to be self-motivated, and we don't want to boss them around too much, but then at the same time, we do have work that comes directly to the brand, so often that's allocated to the teams. But we do have our own risk appetite as a board, and we do, sitting in on budget meetings every month, where all sort of 100, 120 of the projects report on the financial position of the jobs. You do start to see patterns, and so I guess our role as a board is to say, guys, respect that you want to do this, but we don't think it's the right move. So they're the sort of soft management conversations that come from, I guess, MD level or board level to the team leaders. But you're exactly right. It's using the data or the information we have to help guide the team leaders as to where they'll be successful.
Yes, yeah.
Is sort of our role.
Yeah, excellent. And whilst we're on that, are there any specific trends that you guys are seeing at the moment, especially like, say, Southeast Queensland, and we're heading into a bit of a surge towards the Olympics and things like that? Have you guys got anything that you're observing or trends that are, without giving away too many of your own secrets or things like that? But
it's an interesting market at the moment because it feels like the calm before the storm in Southeast Queensland. There's a bit of hunger out there at the moment. A few subcontractors and builders with a bit of a gap in their workbook. But at the same time, we know an avalanche of work is coming. So
it's inevitable, isn't it?
Yeah, like between the venues, so Vic Park, the Aquatic Centre, then all the other minor venues, the Olympic Village, the hospital rollout that is still coming in some form, which is still the biggest Queensland Health capital works program, ever. So all of this is still coming. So I guess we're treading carefully and just selecting the right projects at the right time is sort of the, it's hard to get your timing perfect.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, I guess...
No one's got that crystal ball, but as you said, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. So it's just trying to position yourselves for what you're suited for and taking it on with the right timing and overlapping of jobs to try and keep those same pool of resources.
So we've taken on a few jobs now because, none of this program's really started yet. But yeah, we have to be careful. So I think when we're signing, when we're taking on jobs in 2027, 28, getting those risk allocations correct with the client will be big as well because, we've all lived through the COVID era. We've lived through low productivity. We've lived through escalation. I don't think the Olympics will be the same as COVID because it's not going to be a global shock. Essentially, it's going to be a localised overheating of resources. I think the state government's rough estimate is that we're 50,000 workers short. So they're going to have to come from somewhere, whether it's Sydney or Melbourne, whether there's some subcontractors come up here with some guys because it might be a bit quieter down there.
Sure.
Whether it's you guys pulling resources into existing subcontractors here. We're going to need more people though. So that's probably a trend, but it hasn't happened yet. It's coming. I think the other trend the past few years is just after the post-COVID inflation or escalation, we call it in our industry, it's difficult for resi deals to stack up. So we've seen that. We're still doing a lot of resi deals. I don't like it when people say a Hutchies pulling out a resi because it's not true. I think we've just been more selective or deals haven't stacked. So a bit of a trend in our business is a bit more government work, so health, hospitals, schools, and a bit more institutional work too, so data centres, offices,
student accommodation.
Yeah, student accom. We've got a bit on now, and I think more of that will come. There's a shortage of housing, but there's also a shortage of student housing. So but yeah, I think that's sort of been the main trend in our business. Is I guess a balancing of our workbook towards back in 2015, and it was probably the same for you guys. I think 60 to 70% of our book was high-rise resi. It might have been even more for you guys.
It probably was, to be honest.
Remember, John was building 20 towers in Brisbane, and so some of that's been our own choices, some of that's just been the market, but they're sort of the trends we're feeling at the moment.
Yeah, interesting. And just to bounce back to you personally for a minute too, like I loved how you shared snippets on a bit of your journey on how you've gotten to where you are now, but was there ever a point in time when you went external from the business, you were, cutting your teeth in the industry, you went to the UK for different experience and exposure as well. Was there ever a point where you thought, maybe I just want to continue on my own path outside of the business, or was the plan always, in your mind, were you always coming back to the family business?
Yeah, I was always coming back. Timing was always in question. Do I stay longer? Do I... but it was always... I was always talking with my father. I was always grooming myself or training myself. And building knowledge to bring back to Hutchies. So even when I was, working in other firms or doing... And the other firms I worked for were also very aware of this. It was all up front that I'm not staying forever, I'm going back. And we have good relationships with those firms, including the builder I worked for in England. We now have an exchange program where we're sending young people back and forth.
I know a few that I think have gone over for that and then come back. Ollie, Mr. Macklin.
Yes. So he was the first one on our end, and we've got a couple over now. And we've got a couple Waits and Axim, another builder in Canada, who have joined the program.
Yeah, cool.
So that's been good.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's good. Like my idea behind that was just reward young people who are already doing well in their careers, so perhaps skip the whole travel phase of life.
Yeah.
Reward them with a chance to travel and get their job back and keep their career momentum when they get back. So
and they're going to come back with some more exposure and knowledge. Like everyone does things differently. You never know what you're going to pick up and be able to bring back and
100%.
share with the team.
So, that's the other part of it is, attracting talent, retaining good talent, rewarding them, but also the learnings between companies, because we have the luxury of not being competitors with Weights or Axiom. You know, they're in Canada, Axiom in Canada, Weights are in the UK. We're here. No one's entered each other's markets, so we can be a bit more transparent with how we train and teach our staff who go on exchange.
That's really cool.
But yeah, sorry, to come back to your question. No, I was always thinking of coming back to Hutchies. It was Hutchies was always on my mind. I was always communicating with Dad around what do I need to do, what would you do next. So you know, it was always preparing to come to Hutchies. I think Dad's concern was just don't come back too soon, because when you're here, it's for life. So take
your time and make sure you're ready.
Make sure you enjoy life and do stuff outside. So, you know, I don't want you at 40 saying I'm sick of this. You know, once you're in,
bit of wisdom there.
It's kind of like the mafia. You can't really get out.
Can't get out.
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed working in other firms and traveling, and but Hutchies was always where all my opportunity was. And I just loved the place. I loved the culture. I loved the people. I loved our influence in the market, and you know, the reputation we held. So yeah, enjoyed working elsewhere, but always was going to come back.
No, that's great to hear. And I've heard you speak publicly before about the business and what it means to you. Maybe we'll dive into that today as well. But you can tell it's very authentic and that it genuinely means so much to you, which is cool. And I think, that would have been my perspective, is that you seem like the kind of person that was really ingrained, and that it was all about, you know, just getting that worldly experience and taking some advice from your dad, which is really cool. And I love that you've got that relationship in that dynamic with him to be able to have those healthy, robust conversations and, you know, trying to prepare yourself for the future, because I think that's so valuable, and there's not many people that get that level of, you know, mentorship from, you know, within their family, particularly, let alone anywhere. So
it's a strange thing working with your old man. It's not for everyone, but we found a way to get along and make it work. And especially, you know, in my 20s, it was also working for other people. So learning from John Belize, Marty Tanner, you know, building a job with Anthony Stevens. DC was my PM. And so, you know, when I was day-to-day in operational roles in the company, it was learning from the people around me. But as far as...
you really were earning credibility along the way too. Like, you know, you weren't someone who was just going to float in and have, you know, the keys to the throne and be, you know, you've actually had to go through and prove that you're capable.
It was a fast-tracked career path.
I'm sure. But
it was still really useful. And there was credibility built, and also just great friendships and relationships. Like TC's a future leader in the company, and we're also great mates. We're actually having lunch tomorrow. We try to have lunch once a year.
How good's that?
And same with Marty, who taught me very patiently at the beginning. I wasn't a quick learner as a cost planner. I didn't have the tidiest mind, which estimators and cost planners should. But got there in the end.
Interesting.
Made myself useful. But I think also working through the company, it gives you those relationships through the company, as opposed to if you just came in at board level, it'd really just be you and your old man. You know, like you can build relationships being around people, but unless you're in the trenches together for some extent, then or some period of time, then you just miss out on that. But
I'm sure it helped you understand challenges at that level too as well. Like you're actually constant. In there, you're seeing it, you're seeing the pressure they're under, the things that they're faced with, and it's like at a board level you don't always get to see that day to day, especially when people are taking such levels of responsibility. They're not going to be talking about every single problem that pops up, but if you've been in there and you've seen it, you know what they're dealing with, and 100%. It probably equips you better to have, whether it's empathy or just knowing how to support them. Or
I think it is empathy. Like being a CA or a PM, you know, not to mention site roles, which were even more challenging, but just the amount of information, the amount of problems that come at you every day, which you'd feel too. You know, you're across a portfolio, so. But on a micro level on those projects, you know, CAs and PMs, you receive so many, emails, you know, often hundreds, or could be hundreds within a day, and just they're all problems that need to be solved and solved quick, whether they're requests for variations, whether they're requests for, RFIs, whether they're design issues that need to be solved. So I think at a board level, you're not in that minutia. every day, but I think at least knowing what they're going through, as you said, does create empathy.
Yes,
and just an understanding of what it means to build a building. It's constant problem solving.
It really is, isn't it? Like you said, it's got to happen quickly because the best way to make money on a project, correct me if I'm wrong, is to try and do it quickly. You know, obviously you've got to get the quality in there as you go, but you know, you want to be able to have productivity on a job to move through. But when there's these hold-ups on decisions that have got to be made, like you've got to be able to act quickly to be able to understand what the problem is, what needs to be put forward, get the client's approval, make sure all the subcontractors are aware of the changes. Like there's a lot of things that got to happen pretty quickly. So
program's everything, Miguel, as it is for you guys too. If a job's moving slow for us, that's crane costs that are ticking, scaffold costs that are ticking, our own wages that are ticking. But I know for subbies as well, if a job's not set up and well organised and there's not good sequencing, then the subbies burn wage costs too and labour costs from guys, waiting around for hoists or
having to jump around different parts of the job just to try and find some sort of working zone.
Something to do, some productivity, So an organised, well-sequenced job that moves quickly and productively is the goal. For us, our train tracks are aligned there with you guys. We all want the same thing, which is a job, as you said, of high quality, but that moves quickly so we can all make a buck.
Yes, I love it. And something I was really interested to ask you is that I've always observed the culture is really unique and cool within Hutchies. Like you have that different experience working with you guys as you do from other builders. And at the end of the day, we're still building structures, but there's something unique about the culture that's in there. It's hard to pinpoint what that is, but how do you guys go about managing a culture or growing or investing or just trying to sustain a healthy culture when you've got such a diverse business and what's your national footprint now too? Maybe touch into that first and then how you manage the culture?
So nationally we have offices from Cairns down to Hobart. And we have jobs we're building in WA at the moment too. Modular jobs. We don't have an office in Perth, but we're pretty much all over the country. Southeast Queensland still is a bit over half of our workbook. So Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Toowoomba. So that's still our heartland. But we're players in Victoria. We're players in New South Wales. We've been in the NT before. So it really is a national company. I know some people down south might see Hutchies as a Brisbane company, but it's really not. It's a national business. As far as maintaining culture, it's tricky. Like we've definitely, as we've grown, the place is not exactly the same as the place it was when I first joined the company in 2015. And then went away, or when I was growing up. I remember the Christmas parties when I was 12 and how crazy they were.
Sure.
We had Guy Fawkes party at the Tweed at Casuarina.
No way.
Where we'd let off fireworks and Hutchies people would come up to me as a 12-year-old and just say, I love this place. But, it was loose as well. We didn't judge people. As long as you weren't harming anyone, you could be yourself. And so there was always a sense of humour and looseness. So as you grow, it's hard to maintain that looseness when there's 2,000 people. So you inevitably get a bit more well-behaved and a bit more corporate, but that's probably has to happen.
You've almost just got to put in some guardrails, hey, like still give people freedom to be themselves, but just go like, you can't go past here or here, like just stay within the guardrails.
I think it also just happens naturally because when you're a small, tight-knit group of people, you behave differently than when you're a part of an organisation that big. So it's not that we've dictated to people how to behave. I think it's just as you grow, the culture does change. But I think the main key parts of the culture, besides the sense of fun, is the ownership and autonomy that we were talking about earlier too, and that hasn't changed. So the whole idea of the place is that we give team leaders autonomy and power to self-actualize and make their own decisions and fulfill their own career and enjoy their work, but they're expected to give that to PMs, to CAs, to site managers, and that when Hutchies is working well, that flows right through the place, and everyone feels like they have power and autonomy in their work, and they enjoy making decisions, and that's, I guess, the difference than, say, some of the more corporate builders where to make any decision they need to fill out a form, wait for some state or commercial manager to get to it, and they feel a bit hamstrung. So we've really tried to resist adding too many layers of process or bureaucracy so that people still feel empowered.
Yeah, well, that in itself's pretty powerful, and it keeps things moving again as well. Like, you can make quick decisions, and I love that agility. So credit to you guys for doing that, because I'd imagine it's easier said than done, especially when you have such expansive business. It's you're entrusting a lot of people, and it's probably comes back to hiring and retaining the right people as well, because
100%.
If you've got the wrong people in the role and you're giving them that level of autonomy, I'm sure it can cause them headaches. So it's
and it has. So we don't always get it right, but you're 100% right, Mikel. It's all about people selection. So probably the key one for us is team leader selection, because they then choose the people under them. And their culture often reflects the team leader, the microcultures within each team.
I was going to ask that,
but we haven't always got our team leader selection right, and and it hurts when you give people that much leeway. They can lose you a lot of money. So we've still resisted, the temptation to have, say, state managers above the team leaders or add layers of management. We've resisted.
Sure.
So we're still quite a flat structure. But every structure has its own benefits. I'm not trying to say our way is the only way.
Yes,
But it comes with risks. And when you get it wrong, when you get that selection of people wrong, it punishes you.
Yes, We've unfortunately been subject to the same sort of thing. We run a similar model here at Usher, and again, sort of taking pieces of what you guys have done and how successful you've been, and we've tried to emulate some of that and how we've grown our business, and it's a bit of a different structure and such, but within the Usher Group we have our main we call it our V6 now. It's our 6 cylinders of the different divisions or companies within the Usher Group that all have their own unique focus, and each of them we've got a general manager that runs that business unit, whether it's our signage department, our access department, commercial painting, repaint maintenance, those sort of teams. And same thing, those general managers or team leaders that you'd refer to them as, they're building their own team, their own sustainability. What do they need? Do they need estimators? They need contracts administrators, project managers, supervisors, subcontractors, whatever that looks like, and really trying to guide and support them to build their own unique culture. Like we obviously have the Usher Group culture, and I'm sure you guys do too. There's the overarching Hutchies culture and how your ethos and how you guys operate. But then for sure, those teams have got their own sort of micro subcultures that are there. And you really want to try and actually embrace or encourage that, because I think it's so important. They're working side by side every day. You want them to have their own little buzz and how they do things. And
no, absolutely. Not every Hutchies team is exactly the same. As you said, I think there's an overarching culture that people understand and, comply with to whatever degree, and there's also some centralized things like safety is non-negotiable, and our quality manual is non-negotiable. So there are things that the teams need to fit in with the general Hutchies culture and standards, but you're 100% right. Each team is inevitably going to have its own subculture or microculture, and that's because we're allowing the team leader to do things their way. So inevitably it's going to reflect, their team's going to reflect them.
Yes, love it. And is it true that you guys don't have a HR department as such?
Yeah, we don't. We have a resource manager or people resource manager, Kat, one person who helps us with some hiring and etc. help support the teams. But no, we don't have an HR department. And the idea there is that the team leaders hire their own people. They manage their salaries. They manage their performance reviews. And the thinking is they're the people who are actually working with them. They're the ones who know them. I feel like HR in some companies could be a bit of a cop-out for managers or leaders to say, okay, well, I don't want to deal with the awkward conversation around your salary or performance, so I'll send you to HR for that. I'll give HR some information and let them deal with that. And I think that's, not criticising other companies or having, HR professionals. I hope they're not offended. But I see that as ridiculous. If you're if you're the person managing them, you choose what they get paid. You negotiate with them. You give them feedback. And
if they're performing and contributing equally to or as they should be to the team. So
I think outsourcing that is a cop out. So and that's the thinking. And the other one is just that I feel that HR departments can become a bit of a moralizing, gossipy force in companies where they're sort of meddling in things that they don't need to. I know there's things that when things go wrong, we need to have processes to protect people, especially with psychosocial legislation that's coming out. So it's not as if we ignore people's issues. I think if people can escalate things above their team leader to Dad or I, we also have a golden rule. Anyone can call anyone at any time about anything.
Wow.
So the thinking there is that, if you feel like it's your team leader's not listening to whatever personal issue that's going on within your workplace, then you can call anyone and hopefully it gets dealt with.
There's still avenues to address these things.
Exactly. And I don't think the correct avenue is people you don't know in an office you don't know. I think that's a strange way of doing it, but
it's funny you say that, and again, not to put down any HR companies or anything like that, but we operate the same way. We've tried, actually, we've gone into having an internal HR person, we've gone to having an external HR company, and we still have relationships with HR companies to help us on matters that maybe go beyond what legality, whatever it is.
So do we.
Just for advice,
but, lawyers or
correct,
counselling, EAPs,
that sort of thing. But for day to day, it's all just same thing, handled by the general manager or the team leader of that area, and we feel the same way about it. And I feel like it gives them another layer of ownership to be able to take that responsibility, not run away from the challenges within their team or their people and things like that, and actually grow that respect internally. Because if you're looking for a side angle, like how do you maintain credibility or relationships, or how do you trust the advice from someone? Anyway, so we won't go much further, but it's just very interesting to hear it.
And as you say, there are things that are above our pay grade. There are things that need lawyers. There are personal issues that need professional help, whether it's counsellors, EAPs. So we have all the right channels to refer people as well when that's necessary. But day-to-day human interactions should be done by the person managing you, not someone else. That's, I guess, the philosophy, which sounds like we share.
No, I love that. That's really cool. If we're going to bounce back to what we're talking about with Southeast Queensland particularly, 2032 with the Olympics, what you talked about it before, just being more selective and taking on some work now, so you've got that resource pool ready. Have you guys got a bit of a plan on what your involvement would like to look like? If you said, and speaking with some other people too, it's almost like, again, a part of that legacy thing of going, we'd love to leave our mark on something to do with the Olympics and have our name tied to something. So does Hutchies have sort of some high level desire to be involved in it, or are you going to just try and steer clear and support in other ways?
Yeah, we won't steer clear. We want to leave our mark as well, but we also don't want to do things that are too risky for the company. So we won't throw our hat in the ring for Vic Park, for example, the main stadium. I think we perhaps could. We have the balance sheet too, but every time we've missed a project of $1 billion plus, we've been relieved. I won't name names of projects, but
I think I know the one you're talking about.
But big projects are challenging, right? And so as a steward of a family business, my main goal is to keep it going for another generation. And if one project could jeopardize that, then it's probably wise to not do that. But with that said, we expect to play a role. So whether it's minor venues, we'll tender on the Olympic Village, we'll throw our hat in the ring. So we'll certainly, Hutchies, we're the biggest builder in the state. We're going to play a role. But the stadiums and the aquatics, for example, the sort of $1 billion jobs, we'll leave to some other big boys and let them have a crack at that. So, we'll play our part, but at the same time, we will also have other clients to service too. We're not going all in on the Olympics to the point where we can't service our existing clients as well.
I love that. A lot of wisdom there as well, and it's sort of putting the ego aside of trying to put your name to something for the sake of it, for, like you said, the biggest ones, and actually just sticking to what you know is within your capabilities or risk, profile.
I think, as businesses, there's always risk, right? You can't avoid risk entirely, and there have been moments where we've stepped up as a company, whether it's John Belize taking on Brisbane Sky Tower, a 90-storey, at the time I think it was 360-odd million contract. That was a big step for us.
It's a great project.
We'd built a 50-storey tower before. But there have been moments in our history where we've taken the plunge and it's gone well. There have been other moments when we've narrowly missed the plunge. There's been moments where we've taken a step and it didn't work. But I think where we're at now, the scale of the business and the size, I don't think we need to be, making decisions based on proving ourselves to anyone.
No.
I think we just need to make the right decisions for us. But we will never hide from risk. Like, you can't get away from risk entirely. You can just manage it and try to make...
It's a sliding scale, isn't it? It's just where you position yourself on it. And
yes, exactly.
No, that's great. And you talked before about wanting to, your focus is keeping the business sustainable for that next generation. So obviously you're in your early 30s now, but you've got a family as well.
Yeah, I've got 2 young kids and a wife. Yep.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so my daughter's 2 and my son is 1 in a couple of weeks. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you?
I've got a 1-4. He's 8 years old now. He's a big boy. So best thing being a dad and family wonderful. Time. It's great. So,
they're very young, so it's hard to know who the successor will be yet. But I would hope that one would be interested in the business and willing to keep it going. Because that's I guess the purpose of our family. Obviously we all have our other pursuits, whether it's friends, lifestyle, holidays, or there's many purposes to life, not just work. Yep. But as far as keeping the family business going, I hope that one of my kids buys into that vision and wants to play their part in keeping it going for another generation.
That'd be amazing to see. Yeah. We'll have to keep tabs on that, hey?
The other benefit is it allows you to retire at some point. At some point, I'd like
the keys to someone.
Yeah.
So with that too, has your dad, has Scott retired as such?
No.
Like he's chairing the board?
Yeah, he's still chairman of the board, and he's in the office every day that he's in the region. He travels a fair bit. He does well publicised, but he goes to Burning Man every year and to Europe.
Loves his music.
Yeah, but he's still very much active in the company. He chairs our board. Yep. He attends a lot of these key meetings, so project allocation meeting, budget meeting, board meetings. He still chairs. So. It's entirely up to him. I'm in no rush as far as chairing the board. Whenever he wants to fully step down, that's up to him. Sure. It could be 5 years, 10 years. It doesn't. I've got enough influence in the company. I'm not pushing for more. So, he is still quite involved. But again, the day-to-day decision making is really at the MD, COO, and then team leader. And further down. So again, Dad's not being inundated with problems. It's more strategic decisions, and what jobs we take on is probably where us as the family owners can have the most impact is saying, hang on guys, we're not comfortable with taking on, say, Vic Park or this client, or so that's where you can have the most impact, because once a job's started, you can allocate resources, you can change people, but the job's started, it's kind of too late. You got to finish your contract, right? So the most impact we can have is choosing the right jobs and the right team to allocate it to. Yeah,
no, fantastic. That's really cool to hear that, and it's exciting for you to think about. I love the idea that you can plan for that sort of future succession planning, I guess, as well. It's great to be able to think that long-term vision of a business. It's not always that people, when they're stepping into their careers or things like that, can have that long-term vision. And I think the more that you can encourage people to try and adopt that and look at it, whether or not they've got an opportunity like you to step into a family business or if they're doing their own thing, I think long-term vision is always a great way to view how you put yourself in any situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of family businesses out there at the moment who don't have a family successor, which is a shame. Either the kids are not interested in that line of business, but even if it's not a family member, even if it's just a younger member of staff who you as an owner see talent in, I think constant succession planning at every level is crucial. So we encourage our team leaders to be grooming their successor, their next team leader. We encourage our PMs to be grooming CAs into becoming PMs. And not everyone wants to rise the chain. So if someone's just good at their job and wants to stay there, that's also
support
fine.
Them with that.
But for the business to be sustainable, you need to be succession planning at every level. Because, for example, the site manager role is another tricky one where it's a really tough role. So a lot of young people are maybe shying away from wanting to do that role. We have some brilliant young site managers in the company. I know Blakey, his partner works here, but many site managers in their 30s, throughout the business. That's one role where I do worry, and I think we need to be bringing through more.
And encourage pathways for that.
And it's something we're working on internally too. Just that, interesting. It's a tough industry, so convincing young people to want to do it is not always easy. So we need to make it welcoming for them. How do you guys think about succession at every level.
We're very much the same, and that was what I was taught. I've been very fortunate myself. I've been 9 years with Usher now, and started same sort of like a junior role, estimating and learning the ropes and things like that. But it was always a case of trying to be succession planning. How do you train someone to fill your role so that you can elevate to the next level? Obviously, if you have aspiration and the ability to go and do it, and I've had my role change just about every year right the way through, and now sit at the Usher board as well, which I'm super grateful for. But we encourage everyone to do that. And like you said, it's not that everyone wants to climb the ladder. And for the people that want to stay where they are, we just say, okay, well, how do we maximize you to be the absolute best contracts administrator? If that's what you want to be, that's great. But what does a 10 out of 10 look like for that? But for others that do want to grow, we want to make sure they know that they've got plans to go and do that. And we actually utilise the software for professional development, and we try and build out like 3-year plans for everyone, and sort of saying, where would you like to be in 3 years, and how do we prepare you for that, whether it's education, personal development, professional development, and then we try and have that sort of bench warming scenario where someone might be fully qualified and equipped to be a project manager. Maybe the role's not there yet, but if something was to change, we know that that person's willing, able, ready, all that sort of stuff, and they can hopefully slide in if things can move up. But it's a mindset shift that we have to encourage, because the natural tendency for people is to protect and preserve their role, and so they may not want to be the ones teaching and sharing for someone else, because they think, well, if they're better than me, or if they do a good job, then they might take my role. It's like, well, flip that model. If you can teach them and you can grow them, and the goal is that they are going to be better than you, that hopefully they step in and do a better job than you did. But in doing that, you're elevating yourself and you're opening new avenues for you to grow within the company. And it's not something that's easily grasped by everyone. I think some people still have that sort of self-preservation mindset. But the more that we can just encourage them and say, like, we back you, we want to see you grow in the business, we've got future plans for you, like, don't hold on to anything, teach your team, grow your team, because we want to pull you up. I think if you can have those conversations with people, it gives them more confidence to do it. But there's still, you can see some that have that fear in the background.
And we've had that too. I think some team leaders have done retiring or succession better than others. I think some always kept a very tight control, and they may have been very brilliant and just naturally inclined to keep control. It might not have been out of pure self-protection. Some people just like information to themselves.
That's very true too.
Because they're scared it's going to, in the wrong hands, what it might do. But we've had team leaders who, I think Russell's the best example of doing the team leader transition really well. So when Russell was tapped on the shoulder to be the next managing director, which is essentially our CEO, CEO, MD are the same thing in our company. We don't have two different roles, but he already was succession planning with his project managers to become team leaders. So that was Jamie Washington, Mick White, Rob Diamond, who's not with us anymore, but did very well, Mitch Grimmer, and pretty much all of them have become successful Hutchies team leaders, which I think is a mark of Russell's openness and his allowing them to grow, and just his clever, strategic, long-term thinking when he knew that he'd been asked to do. He didn't ask us to do the MD role. We asked him.
Wow.
And for all those teams to succeed, I think is a credit to Russell. Whereas there have been some team leaders who have left. The team leader who steps up isn't quite ready because they haven't been shown all that information. And then it's like, oh God. And some have adjusted, some haven't. But there are ways to do succession, and there are ways that you don't want to just leave and then. Especially if you're leaving on your own terms, you're retiring. It's not very right to just then leave a guy who you haven't taught or told. Obviously, you must trust him if he's your next in line. But if you've kept all this to yourself and just you're setting him up for failure or her.
No, that's great. What a good example. And it's awesome that you guys have been able to cultivate that, because that's obviously come from a cultural standpoint from you guys, and how you've given Russell the permission or the guidance or the confidence to go and do that. He's obviously self-inclined, but and you think now at his level, the relationship and the respect and the credibility he's got with those team leaders because he groomed them. So it's just going to be a great synergy.
Absolutely.
No, really cool. Little bit of a personal plug for Usher, but I wondered if you were aware where our relationship started as well, because I was going to touch on that today.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Theo and Stu and yourself and again, you did the jobs where I was CAing when I was a cost planner. I was getting quotes from you guys. So, been many lunches and functions over the years together. So, but I'm quite young. So, that's 2015. That was probably 10 years ago when, but obviously the relationship goes further than that. But what is the origin story?
So it was prior to my time too, but the way that I've been told it as well is that Hutchies were the first tier 1 or large scale builder to take a chance on Usher with a tower, like a large commercial painting project. And it was the Victoria Towers in Southport. And I should have known the year, but let's just say it was, early 20... Probably Usher's 2001, so maybe 2010, 2012, somewhere around there.
Maybe even earlier.
Potentially earlier, maybe 2008 or something. And it was, prior to that, the Usher Group was founded obviously by Theo, and it was a shop fit out company that employed 3 people, now have over 500, and it's grown exponentially. But the
500 people at the moment.
500, wow. Well, between employees and contractors, but it's about 380 employees, and then the rest are contractors.
Impressive.
Thank you. And Hutchies were the first ones to, Theo obviously went in there. He was more heavily involved in the business at that time, and he talks about going to that meeting and sort of presenting the case of Usher and our capabilities, and just give us a chance. We'll have a crack and we'll see how we go. And delivered that job really, really well, earned our credibility, and it's apparently just kept flowing from there. And it was just more exposure to the teams within Hutchies, the work that was being done, the relationships that were being formed, and then I guess the testimonials of results being delivered. But we really owe a lot of our success to Hutchies and to the chance that was taken on us. And beyond that, and I should also mention too that in my whole time being here, and it goes probably beyond that, Hutchies has been our number one client in terms of revenue every year. Like it's been 30-40% of our revenue has come from Hutchies projects, which is pretty phenomenal. We're doing close to $100 million turnover every year, and it all comes through Hutchies projects, and it wasn't just the painting. There was a certain time where it made sense for us to grow into different service offerings.
Render
signage, things like that. And they all came out of pain that was experienced by us or in the industry, where we were being impacted by trades in front of us or behind us, or relying on third parties for things and getting let down. So when we took chances on growing our service offerings, a big supporter of that was the Hutchies model and the relationships that we had formed. And they sort of said, we were talking to them about the fact of, we were getting pain points saying, hey, we can't get good renderers. Can you help us out? It's like, well, if we go and do this and we actually build a render division, are you going to support us and put us on projects? It's like, sure, we'll give you a go. And we go and we deliver and we get credibility. And then the same thing was with the signage and then, with the access. And obviously we build sustainability outside of Hutchies. If anything, like you talked about, you guys
a bit
being...
of diversity. Can't be all Hutchies.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But it's no secret that we've got a really strong synergy. And but we just have really appreciated that and grown those service offerings, but also national footprint there. There was a certain point where key relationships with people, they said, we're going from operating in Queensland, we're going to do some big jobs down in Melbourne, Victoria, Sydney, things like that. Would you go there and help us out? And it's like, well, okay, let's have a look. Give it a crack. So we ended up at a certain point had a big office in Melbourne with over 100 people, and that was honestly due to Hutchies. We wouldn't have gone otherwise. But once we followed you guys down there, we then said, okay, how do we build sustainability around that? And we started working with other clients and building a name and a reputation. But we went there because of you guys.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, the gratitude is really nice to hear, but the appreciation goes both ways too, Mikhail. We're nothing without our subbies, is the truth. We're not nothing, but we don't, if we tried to deliver every trade ourselves, Hutchies wouldn't have 2,000 people, we'd have 15,000, and that's just unsustainable. So we rely on our subbies, their expertise, their specialised knowledge, their willingness to follow us, like you said, their willingness to... I think you guys are a great example of valuing the relationship, so that if we say we need 10 more guys to get this done before PC, you take that seriously. But that relationship goes both ways, and that's sort of how Hutchies was built.
No, Jack, really enjoying this, mate, but obviously don't want to take up too much more of your valuable time, so we might bring it into land with a couple of rapid-fire questions. First one I'd love to ask you is, what's something that maybe people out there may not know about you, know about the man Jack behind the Hutchinson Builders brand?
Yeah, I was going to say it was quite private, but it's now a bit more public because the Korea Mail wrote about it. But I write fiction as a hobby, and I guess that's led into a buddy of mine who was a former actor on Home and Away. We've set up a little film production business, so
Wow.
writing and making some movies together. We've just made our first short film, which is doing the festival rounds at the moment. But
So cool.
Yeah, but I guess that started with reading and writing fiction as a hobby first. So
Yep.
People might still not know it, but it was more private because it's really got nothing to do with building. I did keep it quite quiet. But now to promote the film business, we did a bit of PR, so it's a bit more public now.
Yeah, cool. And is that like a passion project sort of thing that you enjoy doing?
It is.
Or, yeah,
I think I enjoyed writing as a kid, and throughout my 20s became a bit more of an actual reader. I didn't read serious novels as a teen or anything. I read non-fiction in my early 20s, but I guess the interest in literature's grown. And I think that stems from music first, and then so similar to the old man in that regard. As
that
far
creative space.
Yeah, enjoying good music.
Yep.
But I guess that's led to literature, and then having a crack myself and writing short stories for magazines. And,
wow.
But yeah, it's a bit of fun. It's not
pretty cool side hobby.
Yeah, it's not a moneymaker. It's not a. It really is a love thing or a passion thing. It's not I hope the movie business one day becomes profitable, but it's definitely not a commercially, entrepreneurially driven thing. It's an artistically driven thing.
Oh, it's very cool. What do they say? Leaders are readers. So
there's many ways to consume information, especially with podcasts now, such as this. But I think reading is a good way to actually think deeply, and same as writing. Actually, writing allows you to think about things deeper than if you were just talking to someone at the pub.
Yes, yep. And then let's flow on to mentorship from there. So have you got any specific means about mentorship or specific advice that's really stuck with you or carried through the years?
Yeah, I think my main mentor's always been my father, just because he was in the position I wanted to get to, which was running the family business. So, and he also gave me great advice too, whether the first piece of advice, which was to do quantity surveying, so do the degree and then go work outside the business at a QS firm. That's followed from what he did, which was he was an engineer. And that was, I think, mostly about getting my own self-confidence, which he did as an engineer before coming back. So you know that if I didn't have Hutchies, I could always be a QS, for example. Wow. So he was probably my main mentor, but then, I consumed a lot of information. So, similar to most young men, podcasts, books. So a lot of wisdom would have stuck out with me along the years, but I never had one main guru or someone. I have heroes, but they're typically musicians or. But as far as life advice, it was a mix of sources, and then professionally within Hutchies, Marty Tanner from a cost planning perspective really taught me how to measure jobs properly and was very patient and helpful with me. Anthony Stevens, who was my PM when I was a CA, so running jobs together was great fun, and he's a weapon. He knows how to solve problems, and also a great guy. We're good friends too. We're having lunch tomorrow, which we do once a year.
Brilliant.
Which shows that the job went all right if we're still having lunch.
Got that strong relationship still.
Yeah, exactly. And then, others too. Kelly Williams, Greg Quinn, everyone, Russell himself, worked for him for a little bit. So everyone within Hutchies has been mentors too as far as my career. A bunch of
mentors
people.
probably for different reasons at different times. And
it's
just,
different jobs, different pieces of advice. I like to take information from everywhere, because I think, there's no one true, there's no one true way to do business. There's no one true way to live. So I just think being open-minded and listening to different people's perspectives is probably more useful than having one guru.
Yes, no, I love that. And you talked briefly about heroes there. Is there a list of heroes that you have?
Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan are my favourite songwriters. So,
wow, okay.
So they're heroes in the sense that I just love their work and listening to them, but I don't follow their lives or their lifestyles.
Just that creative aspect.
And then from a writing point of view, Michelle Welbeck, a French author, Raymond Carver, an American short story writer. But again, heroes is maybe the wrong word, because I'm obsessed with their work, but I'm not looking to them their autobiography for how to live. A lot of the time, their personal lives were disasters. Ray Carver was an alcoholic. Cohen broke a couple times. Divorced.
So just take the creative aspect, but not the lifestyle.
Yeah. I think it's their insight and their art. But artists are often chaotic people.
Yes, yep. No, very cool. Well, Jack, I just want to say thank you again for coming on board. I've got a huge amount of respect for you and for the Hutchies business, and we're super grateful for the ongoing partnership and the relationship that we have. So look forward to maintaining that, and just thanks again for your time and coming on board today.
No, it's my pleasure, Mikkel, and that respect is mutual. I've got a lot of time for Usher and yourself and what we've built together over the past 20 years or nearly. That relationship and that respect is mutual. So thanks for having me, and it's cool to see your facilities.
Awesome, mate.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good on you, mate.
Cheers.